The World Bank president advises against hasty responses to Trump's announcements. Spain's unemployment rate falls to the lowest rate since 2008 at 10.61%. And global billionaires lose $108 billion with the tech sector hard hit by DeepSeek AI. Hello there, good evening and welcome to the Qnews Economic Bulletin, where we bring you the latest developments shaping the global economy. From key market trends and financial updates to regional economic highlights and forecasts, we provide essential news and analysis to keep you informed. Hello there. We start off tonight with the World Bank, as its president, Ajay Banga, has advised global policymakers to avoid quick responses to the US President Donald Trump's policy announcements. Banga emphasized the importance of understanding the full scope of executed policies and urged clear, reasoned arguments when engaging with Trump. Banga also addressed potential World Bank challenges from US travel restrictions, but noted operations remain unaffected for now. On staff return policies, Banga confirmed no plans to expand beyond the current 4-day in-office mandate, contrasting Trump's 5-day federal worker directive. The European Central Bank's quarterly lending survey has revealed that Eurozone banks significantly tightened credit access for firms in Q4 2024, surpassing prior expectations. Banks cited heightened risks tied to the economic outlook and lower risk tolerance, with commercial real estate, retail, construction and energy-intensive sectors most affected. Despite hopes for easing, credit standards for mortgages remained unchanged, disappointing earlier forecasts. In Q1 2025, banks anticipate further tightening for both firms and households, signaling continued weak lending growth. The British Retail Consortium has reported that shop prices in the UK declined by 0.7% annually in January, easing from December's 1% drop, the sharpest in over 3 years. However, food prices rose 0.5% monthly, the fastest pace since April 2024. Retailers face rising costs, including higher employer taxes and a minimum wage increase and a new packaging levy introduced by Finance Minister Rachel Reeves. The BRC warns these pressures could push prices higher, impacting UK households. Inflation, meanwhile, which fell to 2.5% in December, is expected to rise, with some forecasts predicting a 3% increase in January. Staying in Britain, and Prime Minister Keir Starmer has reaffirmed the government's commitment to prioritising economic growth, unveiling plans to unlock over £100 billion in corporate pension surpluses for reinvestment. The announcement, made during a meeting with top business leaders in London, is part of the government's broader strategy to stimulate wealth creation and drive sustainable economic growth. Finance Minister Rachel Reeves is set to deliver a key speech on Wednesday, detailing her strategy to revive Britain's sluggish economy. The BDI Industry Association has expected the German economy to shrink by 0.1% in 2025, marking 3 consecutive years of contraction for the first time since reunification. High energy costs, increased competition, and structural weaknesses since 2018 are blamed for the downturn. BDI President Peter Leibinger urged urgent investment in infrastructure and innovation, while warning that US tariffs under President Trump could worsen the decline to 0.5%. The crisis has sparked challenges for key industries like auto manufacturing, highlighting Germany's struggle to maintain its economic leadership in Europe. The National Statistics Institute has reported that Spain's unemployment rate fell to 10.61% in Q4 2024, the lowest since 2008. This marks a significant drop from 11.21% in the previous quarter, exceeding economics forecasts. The economy added 468,000 net jobs in 2024, driven by a booming tourism sector, with over 90% of new jobs in services. Economy Minister Carlos Huerpo announced plans to raise Spain's GDP growth forecast from 2.5% for 2025, contrasting with weaker growth predictions in France and Germany. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has emphasized the interconnectedness of US and European economies and vowed to collaborate with the US on addressing tariff issues, acknowledging that the trade surplus concern is not unique to the Trump administration.
Ho già risposto altre volte, guardi, la questione del surplus commerciale non è una questione che nasce con la presidenza Trump, è una questione che le amministrazioni americane hanno posto spesso. Nel 2023 tra Europa e Stati Uniti nel commercio di beni c'era un surplus a favore dell'Europa di oltre 150 miliardi, è un dato importante e comprendo il punto di vista degli Stati Uniti. È la stessa questione che ad esempio noi poniamo nei confronti della Cina, no?
In Asia, Japan's government has nominated Junko Koeda, a political science and economics professor at Waseda University, to join the Bank of Japan's 9-member board. The appointment, which comes as the BOJ raised interest rates to their highest since the 2008 financial crisis, is seen as crucial for the institution's future direction. Koeda, an expert in macroeconomics and finance, has held roles at the Japanese Finance Ministry and the International Monetary Fund. She would replace Seiji Adachi, whose term ends on March 25th. The United States now, and the Conference Board has reported that US consumer confidence declined for the second consecutive month in January, falling to 104.1 from 109.5 in December. The decrease reflects growing worries about the labor market and inflation. Dana Peterson, chief economist at the Conference Board, noted that views on current labor market conditions dropped for the first time since September, and business conditions assessments weakened for the second month in a row. Inflation and rising prices continue to dominate consumer concerns. The US Commerce Department has reported that new orders for non-defense capital goods, excluding aircraft, a key indicator of business investment plans, rose 0.5% in December, beating expectations. Shipments of these goods, a critical component in GDP calculations, also increased by 0.6%. However, the Boeing strike disrupted aircraft deliveries, muting overall business spending on equipment in the fourth quarter. Economists forecast GDP growth of 2.6% for the period, down from 3.1% in the third quarter. The Federal Reserve is expected to maintain its policy rate at 4.25% to 4.5% during the week's meeting. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has reported that U.S. single-family home prices increased by 0.3% in November, down from October's upwardly revised 0.5% rise. On an annual basis, prices advanced 4.2%, moderating from 4.5% gain in October. Higher mortgage rates have dampened demand, easing price growth across all 9 census divisions. Deputy Director Andrew Varja attributed the slowdown to increased housing inventory, which is at its highest level in 17 years. Citigroup analysts believe the energy transition will continue despite President Donald Trump's efforts to roll back climate protections and promote fossil fuel extraction. Citigroup emphasized in a note that the economics of clean energy will drive progress, while Trump's actions, such as withdrawing from the Paris Climate Agreement and halting clean energy subsidies, cause short-term setbacks. Analysts argue the demand for green energy remains strong globally, particularly in Europe and Central Asia. Citigroup sees investment in renewable energy as a growing trend that will outlast political shifts.
So we're stopping there, and we're going to then go to Los Angeles.
Italy and Saudi Arabia have signed agreements valued at approximately $10 billion, aiming to deepen their strategic cooperation across multiple sectors. Key deals include a $3 billion loan guarantee for Saudi Arabia's NEOM project, part of Vision 2030. Other agreements cover sectors like defense, energy and green projects, with partnerships between Snam, Leonardo and Industrie De Nora. Prime Minister Maloney and Crown Prince bin Salman also discussed regional peace and reconstruction efforts. The UAE's capital's Abu Dhabi Real Estate Centre has reported that Abu Dhabi's real estate sector recorded over 96 billion dirhams in transactions in 2024, with foreign direct investments more than doubling to 7.86 billion dirhams, marking a 125% year-on-year rise. FDIs came from 2,302 investors across 105 markets, including the US, UK, Russia, France and China. The centre cited Abu Dhabi's investment-friendly policies and infrastructure as key drivers of the surge. Property deals reached 28,249, marking a 10.45% increase from 2023. The UAE attracted $30.7 billion in FDIs in 2023, a 35% rise year on year. And now to the story that so many people are talking about today. Global billionaires saw massive losses, with tech sector fortunes taking the biggest hit following the rise of DeepSeek's AI model. According to the Bloomberg Billionaires Index, the world's top 500 richest individuals collectively lost $108 billion. NVIDIA's CEO, Jensen Huang, led the losses, with his wealth shrinking by 20%. While Oracle's Larry Ellison saw a drop of $22.6 billion. The surge in DeepSeek's popularity, offering a powerful AI model at a lower cost, took investors by surprise, shaking the global tech market. US President Donald Trump has called on American industries to intensify their efforts to maintain global AI leadership following the release of DeepSeek, the Chinese AI startup. Speaking in Florida, Trump described DeepSeek's low-cost AI technology as a wake-up call and urged US companies to focus on staying competitive. Trump emphasized that China's achievement should inspire American firms to innovate further, saying that Chinese leaders acknowledge the US as the most brilliant scientists in the world.
Today and over the last couple of days, I've been reading about China and some of the companies in China, one in particular, coming up with a faster method of AI and much less expensive method. And that's good, because you don't have to spend this much money. I view that as a positive, as an asset. So the release of DeepSeek AI from a Chinese company should be a wake-up call for our industries that we need to be laser focused on competing to win, because we have the greatest scientists in the world. Even Chinese leadership told me that.
President Trump. Now, joining us from Beirut is the economist, Mr. Rudy Shoshani, to discuss the latest developments in the tech sector and AI and the emergence of the DeepSeek company. Welcome to our bulletin here on Q News. Thanks for being there. Now, how significant is DeepSeek's approach to AI in terms of the cost efficiency and the resources optimization? Could this model redefine the industry standard?
Well, it is significant, of course, and how they were able to do it. And it's not born yesterday, it's born a couple of years back, but now we're seeing the output. How it was able to cut down the hardware cost first by 90%, better performance by 30 folds. It's an innovative way. They have done it the way, if you want to go technicality from 30 bits to 8 bits, the mentality of the thinking is different. And most importantly, what they did, and this is where the smart move is, they gave it as an open source model. So it's much cheaper, much better to a certain point, as they claim, because I've tried it personally. I'm still not convinced yet, but according to the white paper, and I've been using it for the last 3 days, it is something to be looked at because it's very specific at this point of time. It's not like if you open ChatGPT and then you try to prompt it the same, it's not going to give you what you are actually expecting, because it's trained on for certain thinking, certain ideas, for math, for computer science. It's not multimodal as at this point. So we have the advantage today. OpenAI have the full advantage, but what it has redefined is the cost of doing such a thing, and then how we can build on this for the future, for the American companies, actually not just the American companies, for the global companies to start innovating. So if a nation today, look at the old European nation, if today they want to start innovation, they can kickstart from this and then jump directly on board. And this will help our region. We have in our region Falcon, which has done the same, but it didn't take that much of the news headlines, if you want to call it, because it's an American-Chinese political thingy that's happening.
I like the term political thingy. I like that. But how do you see, what do you make of Trump's statements? And do you think they might have an impact on the markets? I think there might have been a little bit of a bounce back today already.
Well, the market has lost extensively yesterday, especially in the AI sector, especially NVIDIA. I think this is the biggest loss. We had some news from China also that they have tested satellite internet communication 10 times better than Elon Musk's Starlink. Does that mean Starlink will fail? It's not this way. But how we're gonna enhance, and then putting $600 billion as an investment last week after the inauguration as part of becoming the capital world of AI. This is going to redefine things of the value and the expensive investments that they were thinking about, and how they're going to dominate the world versus the other nations, because you cannot kill innovation in the world. If we specify 1.5 billion people in China, unfortunately, innovation at its best, the determination is at its best. So we have a huge competition. But Trump, you know him. Today he spoke positively on this, that's good that they've done it. We can learn from it. But you never know tomorrow what executive order he will order so that he can block them further for not accessing newer models. Those models or the hardware that they actually trained on is made in 2023. So they're technically 2 years plus old technology. But they were able to do it in a much better way. So this redefines the question, how much are they gonna, change the huge versus the world, and now we have a second largest investment, which is happening in Saudi Arabia, but it's not nearly touching the base of what's knowing. And again, most importantly, this is not the first time that we see something that is blooming. I just mentioned a satellite, and then we have Huawei doing it again. We have TMC Semiconductors. We have Fortinet, which is an American Chinese background, similar to TikTok. So innovation is always there. The American people, especially the politicians and the political stance, has to try to redefine what do they really want and how they can aid the world and not use it as part of ours and only us and supremacy and so on, so that we can really collaborate globally and have global partners and adopt those foster innovations, if you want to call it, across the globe.
And you mentioned NVIDIA there, and they're experiencing a record $465 billion market loss. Is the US AI model sustainable, especially when they rely heavily on the high-cost infrastructure?
At this point of time, this has proved that it's not. But again, I'm still skeptic a little bit of how DeepSeek is gonna evolve, because at this point of time, with all of the testing and the benchmarks that we are reading, I didn't find it near as equal to those that are available. I'm not just talking about OpenAI. We have Claude. We have so many other models there. But the way they have done it, this is what is possibly gonna change the way we're gonna work. Now, when we hear that with 90% less hardware, this is what impacted NVIDIA. This is the reality. When I can spend 90% less on hardware, so imagine $600 billion, now I'm gonna spend $100 billion. So this is the actual impact, the investments, and all of those shareholders, they're gonna start questioning, if somebody else did it in a better way and much cheaper, why those companies that we already invested in, are they asking for that much? And of course, when DeepSeek mentioned the $5.5 million cost, it's not a realistic cost, because there's a lot of hidden research over the last 2 years, the hardware cost, there's so many other costs, and for them to reach today. But maybe the last version costed them $5.5 million, and similarly, we don't know. Let's wait and see what Sam Altman has in his, in his sleeves, another possibly a rabbit, because he's also mentioning a lot of times there's something happening this year. So let's see if the American dominance again will come back, maybe adopting Chinese models, maybe adopting other models. But this is, of course, gonna change how they're gonna be training the models, and even the way the mentality of these models think and execute things is a bit different than the traditional that we got used to. But it's a aha moment for the American politicians at this point of time. So let's see how this will fold, and hopefully in a business perspective competition, not in a political perspective competition.
Indeed. Thank you very much for joining us from Beirut. That's Mr. Rudy Shoshani. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News. Now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and other major indexes showed gains on Tuesday morning, rebounding from Monday's sharp sell-off in AI and related stocks. France's CAC 40 increased 0.24%, Germany's DAX hiked 0.68%, and Britain's FTSE 100 jumped 0.47%. The future for the S&P 500 was up 0.5%, and that for the Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.55%. Meanwhile, in Asia, Hong Kong's Hang Seng was up 0.14%, while the Shanghai Composite inched down 0.06%. In Tokyo, the Nikkei 225 was down 1.39%, and Australia's S&P ASX 200 dipped 0.12%. Oil prices rebounded on Tuesday from multi-week lows as disruption to Libyan oil loading operations offset fears of weaker demand linked to soft economic data from China and rising temperatures elsewhere. Brent crude futures were up 1.2% at $77.99 per barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures were up 1.3% at $74.12. Brent settled on Monday at its lowest since January the 9th, while West Texas Intermediate hit its lowest since January the 2nd. Gold prices rebounded on Tuesday from a dip in the previous session, triggered by tech-led wider market sell-off, as increasing uncertainties over Donald Trump's proposed tariffs kept investor interest in the safe haven asset. Spot gold rose 0.4% to $2,751.66 per ounce. Gold dropped over 1% to mark its steepest drop since December the 18th in the previous session, spurred by DeepSeek's low-cost, low-power AI model. US gold futures rose 0.3% to $2,746.70. That's almost all for now, but please let's have a recap of the headlines and what you've missed if you've just tuned in. World Bank president advises policies against hasty responses to Trump's announcements. Spain's unemployment rate falls to the lowest rate since 2008 at 10.61%. And global billionaires lose $108 billion with tech sector hit hard by DeepSeek AI. And that's all the economic news for now, but don't forget to follow Q News for more on our social media platforms at Qnews EGY, Qnews EGY. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for more here on Q News.